guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds, and this is a major function of the CIA.
Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction.
Welcome back to Notify America. We have multiple pressing stories to get to, stories that include the first batch of Epstein files that everyone's been waiting for, anticipating now for days, has been unsealed and released. We have the files, we'll look at them together. There's a lot of documents, but we're going to zoom in on the new names as well as the new information around existing names, because there is some new information, not that much, but there's some. We also have an update on Senator Blackburn's fight to subpoena the official flight logs from Epstein's private jet and his little black book. Because realize who she wants to subpoena here. The FBI, the DOJ. It's the FBI who's hiding this information. They have this little black book, and they've never released even a page of its contents. But before we get started, press the like button, subscribe, share the video with a friend. All that helps out with the YouTube algorithm. The first batch of redacted files from the lawsuit between Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell have finally been unsealed. We have them. We actually posted them on NotifyAmerica.com. If you want to download them yourself and read through them, you can. There's 943 pages. It includes depositions, court filings, etc. Now, there are a few new names in this first batch, but there's 2 more tranches expected to be released by the court in the coming days. But before we start and look at this, let's just clarify something. Corporate media has been reporting that Trump's name, or has been reporting Trump's name rather, whenever they mention this upcoming Epstein file dump, saying that Donald Trump may be included in the files. Well, they don't. Let me repeat, they don't mention Trump ever visiting Epstein's home or island. In fact, they specifically say Donald Trump never visited either of Epstein's properties nor flew on his plane from the testimony of these victims. The only mention of Trump is one of the witnesses recalling when her, Epstein, and Ghislaine were in Atlantic City and they wanted to visit one of his casinos. That's it. But we all know, like, the media will still probably run with the headline Trump, Clinton, Prince Andrew, all named in these new Epstein files. They're just hopeless people, folks. All right, some of the names include Alan Dershowitz, mentioned 137 times, Prince Andrew mentioned 76 times, the Clintons mentioned 73 times. Also mentioned were former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin. Other names also include Al Gore, Stephen Hawking, Michael Jackson, billionaire Thomas Pritzker, supermodel Naomi Campbell, actor Kevin Spacey, Leonardo DiCaprio, Bruce Willis, George Lucas, and there's like 70 or so others. Even the Pope was mentioned in these documents. I was going to say Pope Francis, but it wasn't Pope Francis, it was the previous one, showing that he flew on Epstein's private jet, the same plane, by the way, used to traffic all these underage girls. But the most important name that was supposed to come out in these documents was redacted. One name, one very prominent person apparently, someone who according to these documents is someone that Maxwell directed underage girls to have sex with. Now, to be clear, not all the names are accused of illegal activity, but many of them are. For example, Prince Andrew. We all know that he was connected to Epstein, right? But boy, is he all over these documents. Jane Doe number 3 was forced, it says, to have sexual relations with the prince when she was a minor in 3 separate geographical locations: in London, at Ghislaine Maxwell's apartment, in New York, and on Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in an orgy with numerous other underage girls. Folks, this is something that we were never supposed to learn about. This is probably why it's been so difficult to see these documents. And these aren't even the good ones. These aren't even the goods that we want. The FBI, the DOJ, have the real stuff, have the crown jewels of this whole conspiracy, and they're covering for all of this. Realize our FBI had all this information. More than this, they have everything. Everything from Epstein's island. They raided his homes. We know they took boxes of videotapes, recordings. Those homes were wired, folks. Everyone who went there was videotaped, secretly recorded. So there's probably a videotape with Prince Andrew and his doll with some underage girls. And really, that's a thing. These new documents talk about Prince Andrew and a doll that he would play with. These people are freaks, apparently. Listen to this. Another victim, one of the young girls, Johanna Sjoberg, testified, Ghislaine told me to come upstairs with her. We went up into a closet and pulled out the puppet, the caricature of Prince Andrew. They put the puppet on Virginia's lap, and I sat on Andrew's lap, and they put the puppet's hand on Virginia's breast, and Andrew put his hand on my breast, and they took a photo. Now, I just want to say again, all these people aren't accused of wrongdoing. A lot of these names were just allegedly mentioned by Epstein in casual conversation, but there's a number of people that are. Prince Andrew, without a doubt, is going to have some real issues to deal with after this, but this is not a client list. A lot of this is just old news. Here's some other new information, though. In a deposition, they asked one of the witnesses, did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill Clinton? The answer was, he said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. Another name is deceased MIT professor, a pioneer in artificial intelligence, by the way, Marvin Minsky, also implicated in last night's document dump. During Virginia Giuffre's deposition, she was asked, where did you go to have sex with Marvin Minsky? She answered, Jeffrey Epstein's island. And look, Minsky's important, as he was one of the most prominent scientists tied to Epstein originally. It was that relationship that likely led him to build this network of MIT contacts, all those top STEM field researchers that he had. Also, Hillary Clinton's personal hairdresser implicated billionaire Glenn Dubin. The hedge fund manager was sexually implicated. Alan Dershowitz allegedly was as well. And Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking apparently participated in an underage orgy. How that's even possible, I have no idea. But the Clintons' ties to Epstein are voluminous. We have flight records now showing Bill traveled on the Lolita Express 26 or 27 times. We have these new court documents of Bill's name being mentioned 73 times, including victim testimony that Jeffrey insisted Bill likes them young. How young are we talking about here? Are we talking under 18? I don't know, but we can assume that probably, given that's what Jeffrey Epstein specialized in, were underage women. I mean, it's most likely what they're referring to, and yet nobody, not one person involved in all of this, except for his girlfriend, have been charged, convicted, punished, nothing. This is all just one giant cover-up. The real evidence are the blackmail files, the videos, boxes of video cassettes that were taken off that island. They're in FBI custody, and we've never seen or heard a word about them. And that brings us to our next story. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican, is keeping the pressure on Dick Durbin, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, calling on him to subpoena Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs and Little Black Book as the committee's first act of business when they return from vacation next week. She wrote this on X last night. Today's release of documents exposing part of Epstein's potential client list is a step in the right direction, but we're not done yet. I'm calling on the Senate Judiciary Committee to approve my subpoena request that would unseal all of Epstein's flight logs. Now, she may be the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, but she doesn't have subpoena power without the sign-off from the chairman. But her pressure campaign has been working. A few weeks ago, she really doubled down, doing interviews, calling him out for covering up for Jeffrey Epstein, which led to this exchange with Fox News. Watch.
Chairman Durbin, can I ask you a quick question? Why won't you subpoena Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs?
So who are you?
Hillary Vaughn with Fox.
With Fox, of course. I don't know anything about his flight logs.
But why won't you subpoena them? Why don't you want to know?
I don't know the issue. I know who Epstein was, but I certainly don't know anything about the issue.
Well, he was charged with sex trafficking, so why don't you want to know who was utilizing his private plane?
Never been raised by anyone.
Well, Senator Blackburn has wanted to subpoena them, and there hasn't been a vote in your committee.
Said a word to me, not a word.
But aren't you curious, like, what high-profile or powerful people might be closeted predators and pedophiles? Doesn't that concern you?
Of course.
So why won't you subpoena them if you can?
It's the first time anyone has raised it. Thank you, Fox.
So are you curious about it? Will you do it?
After that, Dick Durbin did begin to cave a bit. He made multiple public statements promising to try and retrieve the information. Well, the pressure has to stay on him, because without it, Democrats right now, corporate media especially, are trying to distance themselves from all of this as much as they can, either because they know what's in the documents or because they're scared to see what will be in the documents, who it's going to implicate in their orbit. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. I'll see you next time.